Hi Andy, great to meet up and do a little bit of work on your game today. It was a super session. Hopefully you're left with a clearer mind in regards to what you're trying to do with your golf swing. One issue we had was this movement off the ball. You have been trying to stay a little bit more centred, however you were finding it difficult to do based on the hip action that you were getting. And we talked about the way that your hips needed to turn, but also how your legs need to work in order for your hips to work properly. So the first thing we notice here when we look at Grant Waite from face on is that during the first part of his takeaway, the left knee doesn't really move in, it tends to move out towards the ball. So the initial move in the takeaway for the hips to work properly is that the left knee comes out towards the toe line or towards the target line and the right leg straightens. And when you view that from down the line, you also get a little bit better view of it. Left knee comes out towards the ball, right knee starts to straighten. That gets that right hip turning a lot higher. So if we take him to the top of his backswing, one thing you notice with the guys who stay centred is that the right hip is substantially higher than the left hip. This allows the body to turn on a tilted plane and stay centred much better. When we look at you from face on at the start of your session, we can see that the first move, the left knee works across behind the ball too much, and as you do that, that's drifting you off to the right. So even though you're trying to keep this upper centre stable, it's actually drifting off to the right very early in your golf swing. So that left knee comes in too much, as opposed to the work towards the end of your session where we were trying to get the left knee to work out a little bit more. You can see in relation to that line, it works towards the ball or out towards the target line first and then starts to work in a little bit later. And the effect that has is it enables you to, first of all, stay much more centred. You can see there that we're not moving off it quite as much. So we stay on our centre. What we're also doing there is as the right knee straightens, the hips have got a little bit more tilt in them, or that right hip, shall we say, is a little bit higher than the left hip than it was at the start of your session when both hips are very level. Nigh on impossible to stay centred and keep your hips level, i.e. flexing the right knee. So that was one part of the swing that we needed to work on, get the left knee working better initially. What we then needed to do was keep the club on the inside. Well, when we look at you from down the line, at the start of your session, the one thing we discussed was that the arms work in nicely on the way back. See, there's the left arm working in across the chest. But then as we start down, because of the clearance of the hips, the club works, or the arm works, back out in front of you, much more in the downswing. So we've gone from being very much inside to now being out in front of us. And the reason for that is that the initial move here now at the start of your session is to clear. And whenever the hips clear and stop moving forward, the club and the arms get thrown out in front of you and swing out to in. So if we just swing you through to that position, that's the through swing of a guy who hasn't really moved forward. If you look at the angle you've created between your left leg and the line we had on the screen initially. So there's the swing of a guy who's going to get rid of a few of those lines who doesn't move forward enough. What we then gave you was the drill that we basically finish your session on, where we straighten the right leg and put a little bit more weight on the left. So what we're doing is we're actually presetting what we see here with Grant Waite at impact. Right leg straightening, weight favouring the left, and if we watch this from down the line, you get a nice view of it as well as he moves into the golf shot, moving forward first, then clearing, and at impact you can see that right leg nice and straight, certainly not kicked in as we see here, which is evident in most players who come across the ball and who catch it heavy, that right knee shooting out in front of you. So obviously with a drill with the right leg straight and a little bit more weight on the left, the takeaway is still going to be on the inside, that's fine. So the arms coming nicely inside as they were originally. But now as you come down, the arms stay in much more than they did before. So if I just take that down a frame. So there is a little bit of a movement out, but nothing as dramatic as we saw before. As a result, where the club can come from the inside and you can hit out at that ball much better. So if you look at the impact position here or through impact, that right leg nice and straight, sign that you've moved forward properly. This one here, right knee kicked out towards the ball, a sign that you're clearing and dropping back. And if we look at it from face on, with the right leg straight, you continue to move forward. You can see now that you're getting into that red line with the hips as opposed to leaning back from it. So in other words, you've moved forward much better in the downswing, which is going to do two things: keep the club coming from the inside and prevent you swinging across the ball. Great session, good work, got a couple of cracking drills to work on there. Good luck with it, and hopefully see you again in a couple of weeks' time. Well done.